Hi, this is Mark Ziobro with the Movie Buff, and welcome to the Movie Buff Show. Today we have an interview with S.J. Creazzo, Nathaniel Ansbach, and Gabriella Kalomiris from the indie film Skipping Stones. We talk about production elements, making the film, and more. Hope you like the interview, and please leave comments if you have anything to say at the end of the interview, and also please like and subscribe to the channel to support the Movie Buff and indie film. Um, all right. All right. So I just did you guys want to introduce yourself for our viewers?
Gabby?
Sure.
Sure, yeah. Hi, my name is Gabby. I play Amanda in the film, and I'm so happy to be here today.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm Nathaniel Ansbach. I play David. Very excited to be here as well.
S.J. Creazzo. I'm the producer, one of the producers and the director of the film.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you guys again for joining us. This is the doing an interview for our channel, The Movie Buff, and we were lucky enough to watch the film in question, which is Skipping Stones, which has some significance. I think that we can get into.
One thing I'd love to mention at some point is
Yeah.
what the original title of the film was. So let's make sure we've never mentioned it in any of the interviews, and I want to bring it up.
Great. What is that, Steve?
The original title was Skipping Stones to Madonna.
Okay, what was the why did you truncate it, or what was the significance of that?
The scene with David and oh my God, with David and his best friend at the lake.
Yes.
They're talking about the magazine that they used to read and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he says Madonna, 1984, 1985.
Mhm.
And so the original concept was that the kids were, skipping stones at the lake and maybe, looking through magazines and stuff like that. And the reason that we truncated it was because we just felt that it was too on the nose, and as scripts evolve, and once Nate was in place and Gabby was in place and certain changes were made that were very small, it just seemed that we didn't need the rest of it anymore, and Skipping Stone seemed a bit more broad to the overall theme of the story.
Okay, that's a good reason. So I guess I was, if you don't mind, I'll start with a couple questions I had, and then if you guys have any questions or things you want to add, we can go from there.
Sounds
Um,
good.
yeah. So, SJ, what I wanted to talk about was, your inspiration for the film. I know that it is, it's definitely feels like a really centered, small town, independent film. Like, what made you want to go in that direction?
I had been out of the film business actively for a while. I did a film some years back called The Ascent with Martin Cove from Cobra Kai
Right.
and
Wow.
Josie Davis. And so I had left the industry for a while. That was a larger kind of an action film. So I was looking to get back into the business with something smaller, something dramatic, character driven. And Rich Cirillo, who wrote the script, him and I have known each other since we were 8. And we just started spitballing. He reminded me about the script. I gave it a read and thought it was kind of exactly what I was looking for. A small drama, all character driven, complicated, no Hollywood ending. Just really all about telling an interesting story. And additionally, I also knew I had, in a practical way, I knew I had access to all the locations. So it kind of checked all the boxes. And then once I decided that, spent the next 4 years trying to put the funding together.
That's the hard part, right? And that was actually something I wanted to ask you later on, but I guess since you just segued into it now, like what were the filming locations for the movie?
We were in the Catskills. So we shot in Windham, in Hunter, in Catskill, in Freehold, at a resort called Sunny Hill.
Okay.
Which was our prime locations and was also our accommodation. So, the town, the town that it's called in the film, we invented, but it's still the Catskills. So that's factually accurate.
Yeah, well, that's great, and it's not right next door, but I'm in central New York, so it was nice to see a movie filmed so close to me, you know.
Mhm.
Let me. So I wanted to touch, yeah, and I think, I mean, and Rich isn't here obviously, but do you know if this was like how many personal touches there are in this movie? Is it complete fictitious or is there parts from life?
It's 99% all fictitious.
Okay.
Outside of that, Rich and I and another good friend of ours spent our large of our childhoods up in the Catskills. My parents live up in the Catskills. I've got a house up there. So outside of that aspect, the two families, the subplots, all that stuff was completely invented.
That's remarkable because it does hit with such I felt a powerful, like, realistic feel to the whole thing.
And that was intentional. That's why I put the date at the beginning of it. I wanted to give the impression that you may be watching something that might have occurred in part, or just to give it a sense of realism, which is why we put a date on it.
Absolutely. The next question I have for Nathaniel, um, basically, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about David. Like, what do you think is the chief reason that he comes back to town? What do you think he's hoping to accomplish or achieve?
Um, yeah, Steve and I went back and forth on a lot of these questions. I had so many questions going into it, and I think the beautiful answer that Steve always gave me was, I don't know. And and I think that's what I ran with. I think he has feelings. It was more of an intuitive sense of needing to go home, feeling like something was off, wanting to discover something, but maybe not knowing what it was. Um, and so I kind of just stuck with that choice and let each scene give me an answer every time we moved through the film, um, which made it much more interesting because I got to discover the film as I went across instead of having an answer going into it. Um, and that was in a way how I was directed as well, was more to discover the answers of what I was looking for as we played instead of trying to impose something from the beginning.
So it's kind of like you felt something was missing. You've been gone for, well, I think 7 years or something like that, right, from this town. And I like the fact that it doesn't touch upon really what you've been doing since then. It's just
Well,
kind of like,
he'd been in school. He left. He'd been in school. Um, in my head, he may have come home for a holiday at some point.
yeah,
No, it wasn't like a clear abandonment, and then this was the first time he'd ever come back to town. It was more of he had so little of a concrete relationship with it anymore, but it's home, it's his town, it's his people, it's ingrained in who he is. So I think I feel like we can relate to, like, it's a feeling. You know the feeling, you don't know how to name it, but you know when you need to do something,
yeah,
and
calling.
sort of, yeah, just follow that. Um, so that was the fun part of it.
One thing I'll interject, to go along exactly what Nate was saying. One of the things he and I talked about was exactly that. He would be back for holidays now and again. Maybe this last time was a longer stretch than usual.
Yeah,
And one of the key factors, we always felt that it was potentially one of the key factors was Amanda. All of a sudden, Amanda, maybe he hadn't seen her in a year and a half or so. And at a young girl going from, say, 15 or so to almost 18, all of a sudden, the questions, the pushing at him, that and other things kind of started to spark these memories in David that made this trip different.
yeah, definitely. And I get that impression because the beginning of the movie, you definitely devote a lot of, not a lot, but a good amount of time to David coming to town and then Amanda in her room.
Mhm.
And she's looking out the window looking for him, and it kind of builds this definite idea that these are the two main characters who are looking for something in the film. And I guess I could move to Gabrielle, or do you prefer Gabby? I'm not sure.
You can call me Gabby. That's fine.
Okay, okay. I wanted to ask you, like, how it was playing Amanda. I mean, she seems like she's stuck in the middle of not just her family, but um, events that have happened with her brother's death. And like, what do you think she's going through at this stage of her life? Because she's just about to turn 18, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Amanda is definitely going through it at this point in her life, and where we meet her in the movie. Before David even comes back to town, I think she's already kind of grappling with what to do next, right? She's graduated high school. She doesn't have like a clear path in front of her. She doesn't have a school lined up to go to. She kind of just graduated, and now she's just like floating and just being. And she has this question of like, should I go pursue dance? But she doesn't feel that she's good enough. She doesn't have that self-confidence, and she doesn't believe in herself. So I think she's kind of torn there of like something that she wants, like it's her heart and her head, like her heart wants it, but her head is telling her that she can't. And then David comes into town, and that's, throws her for this loop where she's, reminded of all of these unresolved, questions and issues from her past. So now on top of deciding, what she's going to do with her future, she's also grappling with the past and what has happened in the past. So yeah, she's struggling at this point in the film. But I think it very much, like, one of the reasons that I really loved this script, and I was immediately drawn even to the first set of sides that I was sent for an audition, like immediately drawn to it. And this was one of those roles where, as an actor, it's like, if the role's for you, it's for you. This was one of those roles. Like, I felt like this role was for me because it just, I don't know, it just, while I didn't go through the same experience as her, I could totally relate to a lot of the things she was going through. And I think we all can, like that feeling of, growing up, and then all of a sudden you realize that there's a lot that's happened in the past, maybe 18 years or however long that, like something happened when I was 5, and I know that that was a big deal, but like, I don't know what that was, and I've never asked, and it's never been brought up. Right. So I think we can all kind of relate to that. And for Amanda, that was like her brother's death, and the family never really was like open and, talked about that openly, which I think is a very real thing. So yeah, she's going through it, but I love her character because I feel like it's a beautiful representation of like a real girl, like a real teenager or a boy, like anyone. I feel like a lot of people can relate to her struggle.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know if it has anything purposefully in the script, and maybe SJ can chime in, but your character kind of gets back into the dancing thing, and you get the impression that you've been really just hanging out with friends and exploring that whole thing, versus your dad keeps asking him, have you been to the studio, et cetera, et cetera. Like, do you think that David returning to town spurred Amanda on to start looking at the things that she was interested in a positive light again?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, she had that, like, I want to say almost like nagging from her dad, like in a loving way, but that nagging of like, come on, like, when are you going to go dance? When are you going to do that thing that you used to love? And then like the pressure from the mom, like the not so loving pressure of like, do something with your life, like get out of this town, and like I'm tired of seeing you around the house all the time, like basically like move out or pay rent type of situation. So I think she was like, when you're put in that position, a lot of the times you don't take action, you kind of just like crawl back into yourself. So I think David was that like catalyst of her remembering who she was and having that like he gave her like that confidence because he did like, like give her affirmations of like, you are a great dancer and like you are smart and you are, a lovely person, all of these things. And I think just having him, someone that she had looked up to her whole life in like a positive way, and someone that, was close with her brother, I think that definitely was like the reason that she started to pursue those things that she used to love.
Yeah, that's great. No, it makes complete sense. And like SJ, I wanted to ask you, like, 'cause it feels like on both David's side and Amanda's side, there's like definitely a reluctance for the families to really talk about what was going on, not just with this accident or tragedy that had happened to David's friend, but just in their own life. David's parents have something going on, which I won't obviously talk about for spoiler's sake, and so does Amanda's. Like, what are you trying to comment on family, like how a tragedy like this or something really just forces people to retreat into themselves and not move forward?
It wasn't purposeful, and as crazy as this might sound, I'm working on 2 different scripts right now, so I'm
Okay.
trying to remember a certain chronological point. But I'm fairly sure what occurred with one of the families predated the tragedy
Yeah.
that David. Okay, so that was important. That one didn't connect the other. That there were issues going on before, so they were separate issues that the families were dealing with. We felt that was important because we didn't want to give certain people and certain parents excuses to justify, oh, you did that because of this or that. So I got to hand it to Rich. It was such a well-structured, complex story that I found, even if someone had wanted to, I don't think you could have simplified this too much. Either you had to do this story, either you had to tell the story with these characters or not. Either it was going to be complicated and messy the way life is or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I really liked about your guys' film, is that it's not. I get into this a lot, where you can see differences between Hollywood blockbusters and independent films, and just a movie like this feels like and it's escaping me now what you named the town in the
Me
film.
too. I'm blanking on the name of the town right now.
Moss
But
Creek.
it felt
Moss Creek. That's
Moss
it.
Creek, okay.
God.
It felt like it feels like a slice of real life, and it feels like you can actually get a sense
Yeah.
of what it's like to live in this town, where
Yeah.
you focus more on the dialogue and the emotion of the characters rather than anything that's really like a steaming plot.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the brother. Just look at David's brother. I mean, you read the script, you go through the script, or you watch the film,
Right.
and you're like, fine. But then when you really think about it, like, wait a minute. I mean, that was a cover up. He covered certain things up to, you can debate the moral ambiguity of what he did and all that stuff. But that's one of the things I loved about it, the complex nature of the characters. Even with one of the characters who we think is our the one character who he's the good, or whatever the case is, halfway through, even there's a gray area there, because that's life. It's complex.
Yeah. No. And you're talking, and then that scene you're talking about comes back, even about the cover up
Mhm.
of the brother,
Mhm.
with the closing scene, kind of like he might be used in
Yeah.
that capacity,
Yeah.
again, which
And
I
though we Rich and I talked about it, and I talked about it with some other people, and I don't know that Nate or Gabby and I had detailed conversations about it, but just to make sure that at the end of the day, what the brother does is understandable. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it, but you understand the reasons, and there is moral justifications for why he does what he does. Again, and you can disagree or not with it, but it's not, I don't find it black and white. I don't find any of the characters
No,
black and white. Everybody's very gray.
yeah, not all of it's understandable. It's not
Yeah.
not dealing with evil or good versus evil
Yeah.
themes here, but really just real life.
Yeah.
Now, Nathaniel, I wanted to ask you, like, was it hard to play David, or like how much of yourself did you put into that character, or did it come naturally to you?
I think in terms of playing any character, it's like it's the difficulty is in finding the connection. And it's not difficult because it won't happen. It's just a matter of sitting with yourself and with this person and just taking the time. So I don't think David was hard in comparison to anybody else. I think it was more of David had a lot going on, and it just took time to really sit with what was at the core of each of those things to find a connection. And some of those, I think, for me, I could find more easily than others before shooting, and others that had to do a lot with the relationship to Amanda, to my dad, to my mom, to Amanda's parents, to my friends, to the town. You can kind of think of all of those things as an actor before you get there and create something, but it really happens when you're there. So I think it was just staying open to the discovery of what those relationships were. I'd never met Michael Ironside. I never talked to him until the day that we sat across from each other and shot a scene.
Yeah.
So it was really, it was different. Gabby and I had plenty of time to create a relationship with each other and start to interweave those, David and Amanda in the ways that we did. And so yeah, I think it was more of a listening game because there was so much going on. Listen to what you needed and listen to what you were going to discover just being there.
Do you think David feels awkward being back in town? Kind of like everybody's got a spotlight on him type thing.
Totally. I think there's a self-consciousness, and not in like a nervous way all the time, but just a consciousness of self in that space. I think he's very self-aware of his movements. It's kind of like being in a room that's really small, and any move that you make, you're going to touch something, and depending on what you touch, you could break something or not. So I think with David, it was really fun to play with both the uncomfortability of that, but also the attention. In some ways, there's a lot about David that even in moments I was like, okay, man, figure it out. Like, it's time to figure it out. Stop asking so much, just do something. So it was fun to play with both of those spaces where he definitely has room to have someone be supportive to him, but also someone to kind of be like, all right, let's go.
Enough already.
Yeah, enough already.
Now, I wanted to mention there was a beat in the film, a scene in the film that just immediately preceded the David sitting at the bar in the pool hall. And this visually explores exactly what Nate was just talking about. And I don't even remember if it was in the script or not, but we wanted to have David walking through the bar navigating the people passing him, and knowing people might have been looking at him, and Nate and I talked about it and was like, this would be a fun little beat, and we set the camera up and we all talked about it. But unfortunately, just with time and extras that we needed for the day, we just didn't have enough people to make that work. But exactly that concept, we did attempt to visualize for one moment as he was kind of navigating, just getting from a door to a chair, but it just didn't work. It wasn't crowded enough. But
well, you tried, so yeah. Obviously, I mean, I think the film flows very, very well. As far as the editing and just the flow of it, like. But I wanted to ask, like, and anybody can answer, like, if there's any interesting, like, was there any hiccups or any problems along the way that you guys wanted to say, look back fondly on and be like, okay, that was hard, but we got through it, type thing?
I'll mention one that was a hiccup, but turned out to be a positive. The Corvette in the film.
Right, the Stingray
was not written as a Corvette.
Okay.
It was written as a 1940 something or a 1952 Chevy Coupe. Think of the movie Grease and stuff like that, with the high roof, the open engine. And so that's what it was written at, because based on Amanda's parents, his age, that would, I mean, the Vet worked as well, but that could be a type of a car that he, maybe had as a kid, or whatever the case. So that's where we went. And we just had issues with the owner. We had a car, we had issues with the owner who owned the car, when, his flexibility on how we were going to use it in the film and shooting and other logistics. And then a couple of days before, my father said, well, so-and-so's got a 69 Vet. I went, really? I was like, well, what color is it? He said, oh, it's black with like this hot red interior. I went, really? And I just had the visual of the Vet worked for Mr. McDowell.
Yeah.
And I just had the visual of Amanda driving a 69 Vet or driving a 51 Ford Coupe. And I went, oh my God.
Yeah.
And the Vet worked so much better. So that was a hiccup that turned out to benefit us greatly.
Well, that's great. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Or?
I have something. I just have to move 1 second. My girlfriend's on the phone.
Gabby, what about what you love talking about? Talk about your how happy and easy it was to do all the dance stuff.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
Gosh, I was so nervous to shoot the dance scene. I grew up dancing. I'm trained as a dancer, but I'm the type of performer. Well, I would say I'm the type of dancer where, like, you can teach me a dance, I can learn choreography, and then I'll like be very confident in performing it. But with this scene, it wasn't that at all. Me and myself and Steve spoke about this multiple times, many times before the shoot, during the shooting of the film. That I was just like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I feel really awkward just getting in front of the camera and just like dancing. Like, that is something, it's a private moment, really, is what it is. Which is, different private moments are easier to, portray on film. But this for me was like super out of my comfort zone. So that was like the one scene that I was super nervous about the whole time. Any days or like afternoons that I had when I wasn't shooting, I was staying at the McDowell house, like where my family, the bedroom that was Amanda's bedroom was where I was staying through the shoot. So anytime everyone else was off shooting that day, I was like home, like trying to practice the dance, like figure out like little moves, little sequences that I would do. But Steve was like, no, like, you're just going to do a bunch of moves. We're going to cut it together. It's going to be like a montage. It's not going to be, one, shot of you dancing for like 2 minutes. So that made me feel a lot better, that it was like I could just do little things here and there. But yeah, then the day came. It was actually the final scene that I shot. I wrapped after that.
Okay.
and it was just, I requested that it was just me, Steve, and our cinematographer, Rick, in the room, just because I was so nervous about it. But it ended up, yeah, it ended up being like really fun and really cathartic. And we just played like a bunch of different songs and I danced. At one point it's actually in a lot of the trailers and it made it into the film of her like slipping and falling. That wasn't intentional. That was totally an accident, but like that was like a little hiccup that made it into the film. But yeah, it ended up being like one of my favorite scenes just because of how like authentic and natural it ended up being. But yeah, that was probably the one scene for me that I was like a little bit nervous about.
No, I
I
can
think
imagine.
what made it work a little bit too, and I always mention this, it was Amanda going back and forth from trying a move, maybe not liking it, and writing notes down. It kind of showed, tells the audience that she's dancing, she's writing dance moves, maybe choreography. We didn't want to make it that she was trying to be a dancer, but trying to leave it vague.
Yeah, I got the impression that she was trying things,
Yeah.
trying to get back, and very kind of mad at herself when
Yeah.
she messed something up, and obviously your scribbling became more ferocious as you got.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously it sounds like the fall, even if that wasn't intentional, work towards that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You would, I'd be in the corner of the room when Gabby fell, even though my brain was like, please, I hope she's okay. I'm pretty sure I did a fist bump.
Yeah, I laugh too. Like you'll see me if you rewatch it, like I fall and then I'm like laughing at myself. I was like, that's so embarrassing. And I know he's gonna put that in.
Another production accident was when David and his friend, oh my God, who's your friend's name?
Doug.
Doug. Oh man.
There we
When David and Doug were at the beach, it wasn't written to be raining. It wasn't supposed to be raining. And the imagery that we got on that day for that scene, it just blew all our minds. I mean, Nate was cold, Justy was freezing. And I remember Justy was like, oh my, it's so cold. I'm like, yeah, when you see the footage, you're gonna like, this is like, it's gorgeous.
No, yeah,
we were very proud of that scene.
hiding under the awning when it was.
Yeah, all that was improvised on the day. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. I guess we have a couple more minutes left. I just have to begin wrapping up, but I wanted to ask, for audiences, like where can they watch this?
Oh, well, it's on Amazon on demand. So if people wanted to watch it, ad free without any commercials, it's on demand on Amazon. It's with ads. It's on Tubi TV, but you got commercials, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's on Vudu, which is Fandango, also is on demand on there. It's on Plex TV, I believe, as well. I think. And on many cable platforms, depending on where you are in the country. It's on Verizon, Altice, Charter Spectrum, and stuff. So it's available across most cable and streaming platforms.
And any talk of a DVD release or anything like that?
It's out. Yeah, it's on Amazon. If you go on Amazon, you type in Skipping Stones. I think the Blu-ray and DVD is on Amazon. I think it's at Target and or Walmart.
That's great. So you got a good distribution for it. And
yeah,
I think
and we start. We go to Cannes in May. They pitched the film at Cannes last year, but it was still virtual. This year, the distributors are going to be back to normal in person.
Yes.
With the posters and the booth, and now we got with yourself and other reviews and interviews we've done, we're hoping to do very well at Cannes this year.
Oh, that's
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Surprise!
Cool.
I'll be there.
That's really cool. No, yeah, that's great. I just finished up South by Southwest, and last year was completely virtual, and this year is basically like they want you to come. There's like very little virtual optioning, so that's good for your guys' film. And
and with a film like this, the distributors and I feel that the personal pitch, if they're able to talk about it in person, face to face with buyers, you got a better chance of moving the film because of the type of film that it is.
Yeah. And was there a theatrical for this or no?
No, we were very close. We were within a few weeks of doing a theatrical run last June or July, but when COVID resurged in May or June of last year and everybody freaked out again, rightfully so, theaters didn't know what to do. They started closing and blah, blah, blah. So we had a very small window that we thought we were going to have a run, but we didn't. And,
Well, hopefully Can will pick something up and it'll continue to grow. I mean, people can go to, that are watching this video, can go to our site, TheMovieBuff.net, and read the review. I highly recommend watching the film. It's very good. And do you have like any links that you want to share, SJ or anybody else, as to where people can get more information?
Yeah, they could go to skippingstonesmovie.com, or they could go to dreamalityentertainment.biz. And that has all the links on it, to send people where they need to go.
Great, that's awesome. So I thank you guys for your time. Do you have any questions or anything at this point?
No,
I got one question. Nate, did you say you're going to be in Cannes?
I'm supposed to be in Europe all summer. I'm going to be at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts for the summer in London. So I'll be there.
Okay, well, fine. Well, let me know, once we get done with this and stuff, and I'll put you in contact with Tom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you are, I mean, I don't know if he would care or not, but who knows? Maybe he'd like that. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm supposed to be there anyways to do a play.
Okay.
So that'll be perfect.
Cool.
Fantastic.
That was my question.
So I will, I'll talk to Ishil and get you guys, the links and everything for when I edit and post this, and then I can send you an email also, Nathaniel, if you want, and we can touch base about what we were speaking about. Foster children aging out of the system, and supporting that, definitely. I just also wanted to say thank you, Mark. Your review was amazing. This was, I think, for both Gabby and I, this was our, I would think our sort of debut in a major feature, working with an established director and producer and a handful of known actors, and to be able to get a review that was so just wonderful. It really means a lot, and I really appreciate you taking the time to give us a platform to continue getting this out and getting the story out, especially as it relates to mental health and as it relates to supporting youth in difficult times in their lives. No, I really enjoyed it, so I was happy to do it. And yeah, we should talk more. I'm about to get kicked off, but thank you all very much, and I will touch base with you all very soon. All right.
Thank you very much.
Mark.
Thanks so
Bye,
much.
guys.
Yep,
Have a
bye.
good day.